Good morning. Welcome back to Stacy Lee's Life with Cerebral Palsy. Before I get started with part 2 of details of my band release surgery that I had back in August, and the second one I had was in October. I want to remind you to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. As promised, I promised you I would do a part 2 to the details of my band release surgery. Go check out the first part of the band release surgery. The band release surgery details. I wanted to address what a band release surgery is, because some of you may not know what that is. What that is there's a muscle from your hip to your knee, which I explained this a little bit when I had the first surgery done. But what it is there's a muscle from your hip to your knee, and it's supposed to bend. Well, it does not supposed to. It bends your leg back and forth. Well, because I have cerebral palsy and I cannot walk, mine was literally laying directly on my hip, so every time I would move my leg, it felt like my hip was popping out of place. So the doctor went and we had the consult, and he explained to me that it was not my hip popping out of place. Now, just keep in mind, the reason I thought my hip was popping out of place was because when I was 14, I had screws put in my hips, because my hips actually did pop out of place. And when I had the popping again, that's what I thought it was. And here it was not. It was the muscle popping. And it felt like my hip was popping out of place. So I went and explained to my family doctor what was going on, and she referred me to an orthopedic doctor in Harrisburg. And which is in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And my doctor and I discussed about having surgery to stretch that muscle so it would not pop. As I said in the previous video, the left side worked, but the right side didn't. And when I got home, that's because it's a outpatient surgery. When I got home, I felt so much better, even even though I was in a lot of pain. I felt so much better when we did the left side, because immediately I felt no popping, and I still don't feel any popping on that side, which is an awesome thing for me. Now, with that being said, yes, it is a hard recovery, but I felt that it was well worth it because I felt no popping immediately. Now, as I said before in my previous video, there is a 10% chance that it won't work. It may work for some people, but it may not. And so that is why when the left side worked, I opted to do the right side, because I was hoping and praying that it would work, because it worked on the left side of my hip. And my doctor told me that I didn't have to do therapy for any of this. So I was like 100% down with it, because I was like, oh, I'm not gonna have no pain, I'm not gonna have to deal with it. And for the right side, that wasn't the case. I was so disappointed. I have never been this disappointed with a surgery that I've had. But with this one, I was so, like, disappointed because the right side didn't work. I was so happy because the left side worked, but I also knew going in doing the right side, it may not work. But I was still willing to risk that because the left side worked. Now, do I recommend for somebody to go get it done? Yes, in some ways. And in some ways, I say some ways because, like I said, the right side worked, or the left side worked, but the right side didn't. But that's a risk that you individuals have to take. Because as I said before, there's a 10% chance that it won't work. I have no problems out of that left side. Do I wish the right side worked? Yes, I can't say how many times. Yes, I wish the right side would have worked. But it didn't, so we just move on from that. I can now have somewhat movement back in my left side, and that's what my personal goal was, is to have movement on that side. I don't care about not being able to walk, because I know unless a miracle is going to happen, I know that I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to do everything that I can to make myself comfortable. And if that means go through surgery after surgery, do I like having surgery? Absolutely not. I do not like it. But if it's going to relieve some pain without me taking pain pills, because at this point, pain pills don't work for me. So, because I have to take so many of them to try to relieve pain, whether the pain be in my back or wherever it may be, because I'm in constant pain all the time. And that's because of my cerebral palsy. There's nothing I can do to change that. However, will I continue to put my body through the ringer eventually? No, I'm just gonna stop doing them, because I am so tired of having surgeries. I'm so tired of going back and forth to the doctor for this problem or that problem. Is it life-threatening that I have these surgeries done? Some of them have been, some not. So I'm going to weigh the options with my doctors and and see if it's gonna help me. If it helps me, and I think it's gonna help me, I'm gonna absolutely do it. I don't recommend you do this without talking to your doctor first, because just like I said, just because it worked for one side doesn't mean that it's gonna work for a different side. I recommend you go in there and talk to your doctor. Don't make a decision without talking to family members or someone that you can confide in and trust. Trust me, guys, it took me a while before I decided to do this. Yes, I came home and talked to my roommate, but at one point I was going to call my doctor and back out of this. But me being the person that I am, even though the surgery's painful, and I cried because I get nervous before every procedure that I have, whether it's minor or serious, because I always go in my head and think the worst. Because when you have surgeries, that's the way. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes you have to think. especially with some of the doctors that I have. That's the way that you have to think, because even though I try to stay positive, it doesn't always turn out that way. I wanted to do the second part of this video because hopefully this video and my previous videos that I've done have helped you understand why I started these videos. And guys, I've had sleepless nights over the upcoming procedures that I have to get done. There's no way around some of these procedures that I have to get done. I wish there were, but there's none whatsoever. When I went in for my last surgery, or no, when I went in for the first surgery for my band release, I was so nervous. I didn't cry, but I was so nervous. And normally I'm the type of person that will walk in there and, like, literally not walk in there, but I'm the type of person that will panic. I just don't like going in the operating room by myself, even though you got your team with you until you leave the hospital.